Right. Hi. Today we're going to be talking to David Beattie, who is the managing director of Chorus Property Group. The last time we did an interview with David, and we asked you to pose some questions that you might have for him. And I saw one of the biggest questions, or one of the main questions that we had from the previous interview was, how do you market a property and how do you get good clients? So David is back again to answer that question. How do you get good clients for your property? David, thank you so much for coming. I really
Only a
appreciate your
pleasure.
time.
It's great to be back.
Thank you. So let's get down to it, David. How is this? How do people get proper tenants for their property?
Okay, so remember our objective
Yeah.
for our properties is to get the maximum amount of income. The way we're going to maximize the income is to make sure we're having the property occupied all the time, and second of all, to make sure we're getting rent collected from the tenant.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is find a quality tenant who's going to help us achieve that.
Yes.
And what is a quality tenant? A quality tenant is a tenant that pays their rent every month on time and in full, and all the utilities and so forth that we charge.
Yeah.
In addition to that, a quality tenant also maintains your property well and looks after your property well. And a third thing a quality tenant does is they don't create complaints. In other words, they don't cause a hassle with all the other properties around
Yeah.
your property. So that's our objective. That's what we're trying to find.
Yeah.
So in order to achieve that, we need to do a few things. The first thing we want to make sure is that the condition of our property is in the right condition.
Yeah.
Remember that the quality of our property typically reflects in the quality of our tenant.
Yeah.
So the better quality
Yeah.
property we got, then the better. And I'm not talking about price. I'm talking about condition. Is it well maintained? Does it look neat and clean? That will then attract a more professional tenant. We know professional people, and we know that they don't accept bad quality. So we must provide a good quality property for our potential tenants that will then attract a better quality tenant. So the first thing is our property looking in a good condition? So I mean, even when I've done tenant viewings in the past, I would even take a broom with me to sweep up the property, especially if it's empty. Sweep up the property first before tenants come in. I open the windows to make sure it's aired out, to make sure it's in as I say, first impressions count. The second thing you want to make sure with your property is that it's properly priced. And the way you price your property is by doing a comparative market analysis, or CMA.
Yeah.
So what you do is you research all the properties in the area through Property 24 or Private Property or Gumtree, of what other properties with similar conditions
like that in that very same neighborhood
are charging. So if you see on average, let's say it's 7,500 rand, you can't charge 8,500 rand. And bear in mind, if you do charge 8,500 rand, and the tenants are not silly, they know what an average price is, probably better than we do on that particular area. If someone is going to charge at 8,500 rand, more than likely it's not the kind of tenant that we want, because he knows he's taking a chance. So what you want to do is make sure it's well priced and properly priced. Then that's going to have a better chance of attracting inquiries. So you've got a good condition property, you've priced it correctly, and now you want to make sure that you're marketing it effectively. You take some decent pictures, quality pictures. I would sometimes it's worth sometimes investing in a professional photographer.
Yeah.
It's a once-off fee, and you can then use those same pictures for all your marketing in the future. Make sure you got good quality pictures. Make sure your description is good. Don't just say one bedroom in Benoni. What kind of one bedroom is it? Where is it placed? Is it close to the station? Is it close to the varsity?
Some of the features.
So some of the features.
And a lot of people don't put that. A lot of people, they have a property that they marketing, but now they don't put some of the features that are close to that area. So someone that wants a property doesn't know that, oh, it's close to a mall, it's close to us. There's a school here, there's a garage here, there's this here. And if you don't put those in your description, you effectively get less of a better chance to get a good tenant.
So if I got one tenant inquiry and I got one tenant viewing in 1 month, I'm almost forced to take the tenant.
Yeah.
If I got 100 inquiries,
Yeah.
I can filter out to get the quality tenant.
Exactly.
So it's important we attract as many inquiries as possible. Bear in mind, we're quite a competitive environment and market at the moment. We're competing against 100 other properties in the same suburb, or 10 other properties in the same suburb that are also wanting a quality tenant. So you need to make that sure that your marketing is as professional as possible. So now you've got your listing on all the online media. So Property 24, Private Property, Gumtree. You've maybe spoken to the security guard at the front entrance. So if anyone comes past, that security guard knows that your property is available for rent. So that's super important. Once your marketing is now out there, make sure that you've got a good system in receiving those inquiries. Don't get all these email inquiries and only answer 3 days later. Make sure that over the period of marketing, you're getting a quick system on responding to those inquiries as quickly as possible. And then you want to set up the tenant viewing as quickly as possible. Never rent out a property to a tenant who hasn't seen your property. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that your inquiries process is as efficient and as expert as possible. And even when you're dealing with those potential tenants, you're starting to do your screening process. You're starting to ask some questions as to what are your needs, what is your budget, how much are you earning, all those kind of questions. So you're filtering out your tenants as you're going along.
But David, what happens when, because sometimes you find that a potential tenant will say, I saw the pictures, I'm not in Johannesburg right now, and the property is in Johannesburg. I'm in Cape Town.
Yeah.
I'll be coming back in a month's time. Can I pay deposit and pay for the month or the next 2 months? What are some of the issues or some of the problems that can happen if someone does that?
So in our experience, there's two challenges which come up for me when you say that example. The first example is the tenant comes to the property and said, but I didn't know this was the case. I didn't know that was the case.
Yeah.
Almost guarantee that's going to happen. So don't even go there.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, Mr. Potential Tenant, do you have a relative or a friend in Johannesburg that can come and do the viewing on your behalf?
Yeah.
And take pictures and do the viewing on your behalf. At least do that. The second thing is that
I love that.
Second thing is that this tenant, when they're coming or whatever, is if you report, they need to be sending you an application form. So them paying the deposit is meaningless to me. I don't need your money until I've screened you successfully. That's really important.
Yeah, because most people will chase the money.
Yep.
Not screen the tenant.
Yeah.
Most people will say, okay, now fine, bring the money in, but they don't know some of the issues that the tenant might bring.
No.
And they're not screening the tenant.
See, what we
because
want
they
is-
just want the deposit.
What we want is 12 months income from the tenant.
Yeah.
So
At
you're
least.
giving me 2 months money
Yeah.
is meaningless to me if I'm not going to get the other 10 months. So what I'd
Yeah,
rather do
yeah.
is get the process done correctly, and then I'd rather have the monthly rent than a little bit of money up front and nothing for the rest of the money.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And then what are some of the what are other things that people should do when they market their property?
Okay, so I would look on. There's two things we need to do. We need to have a proper screening process, and we alluded to in our last video. But you need to make sure you have a professional screening process, that all the data is there, that you've got the application form filled out, you've got the ID, the salary slip, and the bank statements. But also don't underestimate your gut. So you can't only do it on gut feels. I don't get a good feeling about this person. I would suggest you trust that, but then check it with the data.
Yeah.
But if don't only rely on the data if you have a bad feeling about someone. You've got to use both of those.
And if you don't meet the person, you might not have a bad feeling with that person.
You got to.
And then when they come,
so you've got to be meeting that person and doing the viewing with that person. I even look at the way someone fills an application form. Someone who fills the application form in like very neatly and fastidiously typically is a good tenant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just
So
the way it is.
if someone doesn't even fill out some of the questions
Yeah.
and leaves it, just writes their name, says I'll pay the deposit.
Yeah, no, don't go there. Don't go there.
That's a no-no.
Yeah, that's a big. We talk about red flags. That's a red flag. If the tenant may just be rushed or circumstantially they are acting like that, but make sure that they are following the process correctly.
Yeah.
Don't circumvent the process.
Yeah.
And in my book is a whole process, like a diagram thing, which goes through. You do this and then you do that and then you do this. and it's a whole process flow. You've got to follow that process.
I love that. I think we still have a little bit of time, so I want to ask you the second question now about your book. What are some of the things that are covered in your book? Because it has a lot of content and a lot of things that someone that wants to become an expert landlord can learn from. What is the book, and what are some of the things that are covered in the book, and where can people get the book?
So the book was written for the private landlord. Anyone's got simple landlord, and it was written to be as practical as possible. So my aim was that once you've read the book, you pretty much know what you need to do from A to Z. It's not theoretical, it's very practical, and hopefully it gives you as much useful information as possible. It's also written in such a way that if you want to talk about if you've got a question about tenant screening, you can go directly to that chapter.
Yeah.
You don't have to read from the beginning to end. It's all written as a reference point. I've also tried to make it as storyfied as possible, so it's relatively interesting to read.
Yeah.
And the feedback I've got so far is that it's doing its job.
Amazing. It's an amazing book.
And hopefully, I mean, once you've got the tool in your hand, and together with the resources you can get on the expertlandlord.com website, you should be able to manage your own property quite successfully. It's available. The book is available in exclusive books. It's also available on takealot.com.
Yes.
And on Amazon as well.
Thank you so much, David, for being here. I think I learned a couple of things. Even from the book, I still go back to the book and sometimes go refer and check, because there's a couple of topics, and I can still go back and see, okay, this is tick, this is tick, this is
It's
tick.
funny enough, I look at the book every now and again and say, did I write that? It's like, that reminds me to keep to the basics.
Yeah,
it's just literally, that's 20 years of intellectual property that's put in a nice, hopefully, easy to read book. And I kept there's nothing that I've left out that you need to know about.
Yeah.
Everything is in there in a simplified form. Anything more complicated than that is unnecessary to use in property management.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for being here, David.
It's only a pleasure.
Someone that wants to start, someone that says they want to become an expert landlord, but they don't know what to do. What do you advise
them? I would suggest buy the book. It's not that I make a lot of money out of the book, but it's a good reference. And get a good network around you. I mean, your seminars and your coaching, and there's other coaches as well. There's plenty of online resources. Just get yourself involved into an environment where there are other property investors, and that is a huge starting point.
I love that. Get someone that's already successful in a field that you want to become successful in, help you become successful yourself. So David, thank you so much for being here. How do people get in contact with you?
They can easily get in contact with me by emailing me. I'm still old school in that way. David at chorusletting.co.za. That's David at CHORUS letting.co.za.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. Guys, thank you so much for viewing this video. Comment below what are some of the things that you also would like to talk about. What are some of the keynotes that you took from this video? What are some of the things that you took from this video that are very important that you'd like to share? If you have other things that you think are also important, if you want to market, or for someone that wants to market a property, share them with us. Tell us what you think. But otherwise, we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.
Thank you.
Awesome.